Let's talk about the sobering reality of Scorpio season. This Scorpio season is different from previous ones. I'm sure you've been feeling that for some time. I'm sure you've been feeling the intensity as well since our last new moon, which we just had a couple days ago, the Scorpio new moon on Monday. And in addition to the new moon, we also have big players like Mars and Pluto who are really ramping up energy in this Scorpio season. There is this intense reality check that both Mars and Pluto are bringing into the mix for this Scorpio season for us. And this reality check really has to do with both personal and global. So it's a collective reality check as well as a personal, deep inner reality check that we're all basically forced to face at this time. And this insistently evolutionary energy is really just pushing us now to evolve. Like the universe is like, come on guys, like you got this. We're really getting a big push here to change, and to change in dramatic big ways. So this energy is not for the faint of heart. This is for people that are willing to do the work. This is for people that are willing to face the darkness within them and not allow themselves to be distracted by external influences, so that they can really overcome something big within themselves. And this big is going to yield really beautiful rewards. So the sign of Scorpio is also known as the great denumbing agent. It is, like I said, a very sobering reality check that Scorpio delivers to us. And it's shining a light onto our disowned shadow aspects and karmically carried ancestral issues or patterns as well, revealing dark and heavy emotions and patterns that are buried with each and every single one of us, right? We all carry baggage that has been passed down from generation to generation, and we all also carry baggage from just previous experiences, that we've had. And so this Scorpio season is forcing us to look at and acknowledge the suffering and unprocessed pain that we carry from these past experiences and from repetitive karmic cycles, things that we keep doing over and over where we're not learning a lesson, or it's like we're learning the lesson, we've seen the lesson, but haven't fully acknowledged it, haven't fully integrated it and accepted it for what it is, right? Because you can see a lesson sometimes very clearly, like exactly what you're meant to learn from a situation, but yet then you'll go and just repeat it again. But you do that because, for one, it's very ingrained perhaps for you to behave that way. And so some of those behaviors will be highlighted to you at this time during Scorpio season to notice them. And it could be like knee-jerk reaction, right? It could be a lot of unconscious drives behind, those actions. So, like I said, we're really being forced this Scorpio season to pay attention and to see what you've been repeating and what have you been avoiding dealing with, that and you feel within yourself that it's time to deal with it. Now, it takes a significant amount of strength and courage to face what you're afraid of feeling, because in most cases, I find people are always running from the things that they're afraid to face, and it's usually feelings that they are afraid to face or feel because they actually fear the pain. But then you're sitting in pain, carrying it anyway, if you're not facing it, and all you're doing is just prolonging that pain, right? And you just keep carrying it. It's like eventually you will have to deal with it. Eventually you will have to face it. So wouldn't you rather get it done now, especially when the energies are supporting you to do that? So that's why it's a little bit of a call out to reality check for all of us, right? To really start facing those things that we have not been facing, things that we have been avoiding on purpose. So I was looking at my own recently. Now, keep in mind that not everybody is going to have the courage and the strength to look at their shadows and to look at different parts of themselves that they don't like, And, not everyone is going to be prepared to do this kind of work. It really does take a lot of inner strength to be able to do this kind of work. So, and also keep in mind that there's like 24/7 bombardation, right? Of like disinformation, of like propaganda and fear mongering. So it's like we're so distracted with all these external things going on in our world, and with all of this shadow actually playing out in our world, that it's distracting us from facing our own inner shadows. And in order for the external shadows of the world to be healed, to have light shed on them, we must do the inner work, because we each individually are contributing to the collective energy, right? So this is where most people end up running, right? Because there's so much external negativity and distraction. What they end up doing is like ostrich, sticking their head in the sand, and they would rather run, they would rather distract themselves or numb out than to, deal with it, because they don't know how to cope, right? So don't try to stop the people around you. If there are people in your life or in your family at this time that are not at all willing or ready to do the work, then do not allow yourself to actually get distracted with them and trying to push them in the right direction, but instead take all of that power and energy back into yourself and just focus on you facing your own shadows. What aspects of myself can I face, that can I heal, can I work on, which is much more important. That's something I can control. It's something I can do something about, instead of wasting my energy and time worrying about people that are not interested, not ready to do the work, right? And you have to also keep in mind that you are not ready. If you are at a lower level of consciousness, then you're not going to have the insight or the perspective to see that you have the strength to actually face those fears or face that darkness within you. And as a result, you're going to continue running and hiding from it. And that's why you can't force people to awaken. You can't force anyone to see something that they're not ready to see, right? So you have to just leave those people where they're at and let them come to their own conclusions, let them come to their own timing, right? And eventually they'll get there. So stay in your own lane, focus on what you need to face at this time, and don't worry about other people. So the Scorpio new moon energy is also showing us that there is nowhere left to run, that the only option is to stop and face the raw truth of what you feel and the raw truth of what's going on all around you. So it's a complete reality check, and being totally realistic about other people and whatever you're entangled in with other people, and seeing that more clearly, seeing your part, how you have participated or have contributed to that issue, potentially, if there's issues, right? And it's just really facing that raw truth of the self. What's going on? What are you actually feeling? And what is the truth of what you're feeling? So whatever you are feeling at this time, way down, like deep, deep, deep down in your heart, in your core, it's yours. And I want you to just take a moment right now and acknowledge that that is yours. It is a part of you. And that abandoning that part of you is not okay. And you shouldn't. It's very unkind and very unloving to abandon certain parts of you just because you don't agree with them, just because they're not pretty or they're not the way that you would like them to be. So what needs to be owned and acknowledged within you at this time? To bring our world back to harmony and to peace, we are certainly going to need to do this work individually so that we can put this new energy out into the collective and really shift ourselves out of this before we get to a point where we literally destroy our world, because it's the shadows that always destroy the world. Those shadows come from within us. They come from within humanity, right? So as we individually do the work, we are literally shifting the vibration, putting out a brand new vibration, a vibration of courage and strength and a willingness to face dark parts, right? And that in itself has a ripple effect and shifts the planet itself and shifts others around us, right? When you do the work, you inspire other people to also do the work, because then you show them that, hey, this work is doable. It can be done. And you don't have to do it overnight. You don't have to have it all figured out right now, but just like take a step in that direction. So we inspire each other to do the work. When you meet yourself at your core, you realize who you are underneath the layers of programming that have been passed down to you by your family and by society, right? So when you push all that crap out of the way, other people's opinion, and you should, and this and that and the other thing, when you push all of that out of the way and you just tune in to the core essence of yourself, then you will reveal a better path to yourself in terms of moving forward, because that core self always dictates truth, nothing else. It always resonates truth. The core self, your soul, knows exactly what it wants to accomplish in this lifetime, knows exactly what it wants to experience in this lifetime. And so connecting to that, going back to that, is the only way that you're going to have clarity on how to move forward on your path. And sometimes it may not even make sense, or your ego may judge that, severely judge that, which will also then prevent you from going on that path that your core is, that your heart and soul is trying to guide you towards. So becoming aware of that, becoming mindful of that is definitely something that we're given an opportunity to become aware of that right now with these energies. So turn up your intuition, like really tune into your intuition and into your sensory acuity. So like notice your sensitivities. What are you sensitive to? And tune into that more and try to figure out, why you're sensitive to certain things. What can I change to? So instead of maybe eating a certain thing that you are noticing a sensitivity to, what can I switch over to, like gluten-y bread versus sourdough bread, right? Just one simple example, or even different clothing, like allergies and seasonal allergies too, actually very much have to do with the immune system, right? So if you have seasonal allergies, then your body's just trying to tell you that you're out of balance, that your immunity isn't supported with the right foods, the right nutrients. So what kind of changes do you need to make? Do you need to educate yourself on that more? Do you need to do more research, perhaps? So everything about this energy is just guiding us to what's good for us. That's really the main point here that you have to understand. So, and it's also about having this willingness to really swim in the powerful, complex feelings that you have. Are you willing to take a dive into your own emotional pool and take a swim in there and just feel it out? How does my emotional pool feel in general? What kind of feelings are in here? And what kind of feelings could I transmute at this time to a higher frequency emotion, right? It's about the purge, right? And clearing out what doesn't work. So notice the strength also and the courage actually that it takes to look within yourself, and notice how much it builds your character, your strength, your courage, your resilience, your confidence when you do this type of work, because it really, really does. It is the only way to actually build these things up within us. The more you understand yourself, the more clarity you have, the more confident you're going to feel, the more sure about yourself you're going to feel, the more you're going to trust your intuition, the more you're going to trust your internal wisdom and the hits that you get, the downloads, the channeling, whatever comes through for you. You're going to start to trust that more. So get excited to face the dark. Get excited to do shadow work, because it really is going to transform you from the inside out in such a powerful way that it's just going to make you face, parts of you that you have abandoned and rejected. Excuse me. Now, there's also a Plutonian process of change that is happening currently, and this is happening at a cellular level. So Pluto is truly, the energy of Pluto right now is coming in and literally dismantling old programming within our cells, within our being, because we all know at this point, science proves that our emotions are stored in our bodies. So there are certain emotions, certain feelings that are stored in our bodies that were left behind by trauma, that were left behind by ancestral trauma that we carry within our DNA. And that is actually being upgraded. That is actually being swept out and cleared out at this time. And especially if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to face certain shadow aspects of yourself, then that's actually going to come out even more. So have radical acceptance of seeing your darkness, and just know that looking at it is a really, really empowering process. Now, Pluto is also bringing awareness to the negative ideas and attitudes that we have about our worth, about our value, what we deserve, about like prosperity, about abundance. So a lot of that might be coming up for you at this time as well. So these 3D old world perceptions of lack and suffering are way past their expiry at this point, like way past. You know, we're trying to emerge, not trying, we are emerging and moving up into 5D. And to really connect to that 5D, all these old structures, these old perceptions about lack and suffering are crumbling, they're falling away at this time. So that means that Pluto is helping us to let them go. You know, Pluto is helping to sweep all this and clear all this old, heavy energy out of ourselves. It's activating our light bodies actually at this time too, and not just light bodies, but our rainbow bodies. Excuse me, a lot of different energy bodies are being activated during this time with Pluto and Mars sort of forcing us to do all this work, internal work. And I do want to suggest here that using daily positive affirmations will be really, really helpful to shift you even faster. So getting into like I am statements, I'm worthy of love, I love myself, I love that I'm different, I am worthy of having all of my needs met, I'm worthy of abundance, I'm worthy of prosperity, whatever, fill in the blank. All of these I am statements are going to be very supportive at this time. And if you start doing them on a daily basis, even if it's just 3 or 4 statements that you say to yourself, and it could be random whenever time you think of it, or write it on a sticky note or something and just repeat these affirmations to yourself, it'll really, really help to further sort of detox that old energy out of your cells, out of your system. And it's going to help anchor in this new higher vibrational light information, right? And new perceptions and new light codes into the body. Now, here is a question that I'm going to ask you. And I have sort of a 5-step process here in which you can help handle this. So how can you face and express your grief without allowing it to paralyze you? And it's an important question to ask yourself at this time because, like I said, all these energies are forcing us to face stuff anyway internally. And it's helpful to know, how to go about this and how to actually face, your own internal grief and sadness and fear and anger and whatever else you have going on in there, in the shadow aspects of you. So it's like, how can you face and express that without allowing it to paralyze you? Well, step 1, and you might want to write these down, is allow yourself to be okay with not knowing how. That's the very first step. Very simple. It's just being okay with not knowing how. The moment that you have that perception or belief, or you accept that perception, that from this point on, I'm just going to allow myself to be okay with not knowing how to do this work, it immediately takes you off the hook. And it's a hook that you put yourself on. So that in itself, just feel into it. It creates a relief, right? A sense of release even. So just allowing yourself to be okay with not knowing how. And this is definitely a process of shadow work. So these 5 steps are full-on shadow work steps that I'm going to mention here. Because when you allow yourself to face these darknesses within you, that facing is acknowledging, right? And acknowledging means that you are now able to start integrating that shadow, and that integration of shadow means that you are now healing that shadow aspect. So once you've shed light on a part of your shadow, that light is lit forever. That part of your shadow is lit up forever and is basically eliminated. It's healed in that moment. This is why it's so important to do the shadow work. All right, step 2, allow yourself to be with your darkness. It's okay that you have darkness, because newsflash, every person on this planet has darkness. Okay, so it's very, very necessary to reclaim and reflect on your shadow. Reclaim your shadow. It's a part of you. Don't reject it. Love it. And just know that it's all the unhealed parts of you. That's all it is. So stop abandoning that part of yourself, okay? Because your shadow is very much a part of yours, just like my shadow is a part of me. And we all have shadow. So I want to kind of just a little bit bluntly say here, get over it, that you have a shadow. Because we all have a shadow to work on. And you can either own it or pretend you don't have one and continue suffering inside. It is completely up to you. But that unsettling feeling of the conscious awareness of having your shadow will never really let you rest, right? And this is why it's important. You might as well face it. You might as well do the shadow work, because it's always going to be there. It doesn't just go away magically, right? So yeah, stop ignoring it, because it's not going to leave you alone until you face it, acknowledge it. Now, step 3, acknowledge your anger. And I know from talking to so many people over the years, so many people have suppressed anger within them. You need to ask yourself, what are you angry about with yourself? What are you angry at yourself for? Maybe a different way of posing the question. Or maybe I'll say and, because we're all angry at ourselves for something. And what are you angry at others for? Can you identify? Do you know who you're angry at? And do you know why you're angry at them? Now, with this, let yourself off the hook again, okay? And you're also going to let other people off the hook for their past mistakes. It's time to figure out a way to solve this within you instead of running from it, right? It's time to forgive yourself for whatever mistakes you've made that you were angry at yourself for. And it's also time to forgive others, right? For whatever they've done. It's like, just forgive yourself for being a big jerk to yourself or to somebody else. Step 4, acknowledge your fears. What are you afraid of? Is it rejection? Is it not being good enough? Is it not being loved or accepted by others? Is it loss? What are you afraid of? Then face that within yourself. So once you have identified what you are afraid of, then face that head on and ask yourself, if it's rejection that you're afraid of, then ask yourself, what am I rejecting within myself? Because as soon as you deal with that, external rejection won't matter as much. You won't be triggered by it. You won't be upset about it to the same degree, to the same level, right? So first identify within you. What am I rejecting within myself? Is it my shadow, perhaps? Is that what I'm not willing to face? Is that what I'm rejecting and constantly pushing away and saying, no, I'm not looking at you because I don't love you? How am I not good enough when I'm always doing the best that I can? So if it's the whole, not being good enough that you're afraid of, then you got to ask yourself, how am I not being good enough if I'm always doing the best I can? And that's going to look different from day to day, because you're going to have good days and bad days like we all do, right? So do you see how all of a sudden I'm not good enough is irrelevant? How am I not loving or accepting myself? If you're afraid of others not loving you or accepting you for your quirks or your weirdness or your whatever, you would ask yourself first, how am I not loving or accepting, or why don't I love and accept my weirdness, my quirkiness? And what do I feel is lost? So if you're afraid of loss, what do I feel is lost or missing within me? How am I not whole? Ask yourself that question, because loss very, very much has to do with not feeling whole within the self. When you are whole within yourself, you have this very deep understanding that you're connected to God, you are guided by God, you're going to have many different experiences. The more you tune into positive experiences, the more you're going to have those, and the more you tune into negativity, the more you're going to have negative experiences. So where are you not feeling whole? Because that wholeness, once you genuinely, truly feel whole within yourself, no loss on the outside will be perceived as a loss. You're going to understand that rejection is God's protection. If you're rejected by somebody, by work, by a potential partner or whatever, then you're going to just understand that those people are all operating out of their own level of consciousness. So the loss doesn't seem like a loss anymore. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like you become more and more aligned to things that really work for you, that are best for you. And step 5 is allow yourself to be uncomfortable with uncomfortable truths. So this is like full radical acceptance of just being uncomfortable. It's okay. It's okay that I'm uncomfortable. And it's perfectly normal that I'm comfortable. I'm uncomfortable with uncomfortable truths, right? Because when you know viscerally what is no longer acceptable in any shape or form, either within you or outside of you, then the light comes in and it illuminates and casts out the darkness from that part of your shadow. So it's really quite beautiful, actually, to have awareness, to know what is good for you, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, because the reconnection to the core is what I'm being shown. Is just like we're reconnected to the core in that moment. So this is how you really look at your shadow. This is how you do shadow work, right? Is by facing things the way that I've just mentioned with the examples I provided. And this Scorpio season is basically going to be all about shadow work. So, facing those parts of yourself that you've been rejecting. And this Scorpio season is going to challenge you and ask you to step up to the challenge, to not be afraid of doing this work, and to see and recognize the value that it provides and the incredible upliftment and lightness and awareness and consciousness that you gain as a result of doing this shadow work. So with that being said, I want to encourage each and every single one of you to really be willing to face, whatever parts of yourself you're not okay with at the moment, and move into forgiveness for yourself. Take yourself off the hook, please. Just do it. And know that, you're constantly growing. And as long as you have a willingness and a desire to change, to reconnect yourself to that core part of yourself, and you're taking steps to do that every day, it doesn't matter how it looks. As long as it feels good, the journey feels good because you have this awareness and you're like, it's okay, I messed up because, I'll try better tomorrow, right? It's like as long as you keep putting that one foot in front of the other, you're going to make massive, massive progress this Scorpio season, and it's really going to transform you and prepare you actually for 2024 and for all of the energies and all of the huge opportunities that are going to be coming in 2024. So that's my message for this week in terms of energy update and how to best navigate this energy. And I hope you found it helpful. And it's crazy, my throat chakra has been like nuts this whole time. So there's definitely communication here that needs to be had. The collective that I am speaking to, the people that are tuning in, your energy, I'm really, really picking up. Like you can hear my voice is like, it's like in and out. So there's definitely this need to communicate, I think communicate effectively with ourselves, first and foremost, and also communicating effectively with other people. So tune into that as well at this time. What do you need to say? What do you need to get off your chest? What do you need to just finally get off your plate so that you can move on and release some of that stuck energy, because it clearly needs to be done. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in and for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.